Now it's time to call upon the second lecturer for the day, and it's Julian Venables, the famous Western astrologer and author of several books, TV presenter, and his topic is understanding and using Synodic cycles.
Right, well, it's really most excellent to be here, and I'm really glad to come back to India again and talk to you again with another presentation here. Again, I've been thinking about how we can meet East with West and find some common ground in astrology that we can both kind of learn from. And I decided that to talk about like the Synodic cycles, but more really as a sort of a formula that could be for all of the planets. And so I called this talk the Facets of the Diamond, as you'll see why. So the first thing is this quote by the statesman, politician and scientist Benjamin Franklin, and he says there are three things extremely hard: steal a diamond and to know oneself. And of course in astrology, half the goal of astrology is to know ourselves. That's kind of why we're, I think, drawn to the art in the first place. So all the ancient mystery schools talk about the idea of coming into adulthood anyway, and being like a rough stone that has to be smoothed off over time, and it's improvement to our personality that we tend to recreate to make a better self, if you like. And inside, of course, there's a perfect diamond inside a rough diamond. And in astrology, we know that God works through numbers, and this is the aspect cycle of that we're all familiar with. So the aspect cycle starts at the conjunction, which is at the bottom of this circle here, 0 degrees, and then it moves in an anti-clockwise fashion, going up the right-hand side. As you can see, the aspects building up in number as they go up, and to the opposition, and then they come back down again to the next conjunction. And so essentially that is the aspect series, and as we improve our lives through following the transiting aspects, so we improve ourselves. And as I said, God works through numbers. So the idea of a synodic cycle is that it's a cycle that occurs between one planet and another. The synodic cycle is the time from one conjunction of two planets to their next conjunction. And in etymology, the word synod means a place of meeting. So here you have, again, this idea of the aspect circle reaching out from the conjunction point. And this is what the really core of this talk is about, is understanding the conjunction point at the beginning of the cycle. And of course, the conjunction point, as you can see, it fans out with these different aspects, and then that in turn is similar to looking like a diamond. And life, if you like, is all about creating perfection in ourselves, because the more we know ourselves, the better we can become, and better wisdom and so forth. So for this I say aspects are equal to facets. So the blueprint of all synodic cycles is that there are two of every aspect. There's one increasing aspect, or also called separating, and then when it gets to the opposition, it then moves into a decreasing aspect, which is called applying. And and essentially with synodic cycles, you're looking at one faster planet and one slower planet, but just by their orbits. And so The faster planet moves away from the slower planet. That's the separating action after the conjunction. Goes ahead, gets to the opposition, and at 180 degrees, and then it comes back down again, if you like, in the trail of the old planet to then make another conjunction. And as this goes through life, so each aspect cycle, it's like becoming a bit like a diamond in yourself, because if you're aware of how you're growing and developing in your life and evolving in your soul's journey, such that it's like you sparkle, if you like, you know, because you kind of know yourself better. And this leads to this concept, really, that we are all very precious. And the natal horoscope is the promise in life, because it's what we're born into. So that's everything that we have in terms of the symbols on the page of the natal horoscope. That's it, and that's how we will see our lives, symbolically speaking. And so the symbols show our world from which we are at the center, perceiving everything around us and in us. And this is, again, the idea of the geocentric perspective of astrology, where we are at the center. So as you go through life, you are constantly learning about yourself and knowing yourself. This leads to acceptance of others in relation to oneself and acceptance of self in relation to others. Now, there's a wide range of cycles. We're all familiar with the Sun-Moon cycle, 29 days, and different, you know, to really simplify the Synodic cycles, then Sun Mercury is 116 days, Sun Venus 584, Sun Mars 780. And then we get to Sun Jupiter, which is 1 year and 34 days, Sun Saturn, which is 1 year and 13 days. Now that covers the visible traditional planets that Vedic astrology is also familiar with. And I've added there on the end Sun Uranus, Sun Neptune, Sun Pluto with their Synodic cycles. Because if anybody is interested in Vedic astrology and following how to develop their own understanding of how the outer planets work, then you need to get your ephemeris or your almanac, and you need to check the date of the Sun-Uranus conjunction, and then you can, according to this formula that I'm going to show you, you can follow that around the chart. Same with Sun-Neptune, and same with Sun-Pluto. So it's kind of like a self-teaching method of how the outer planets work. If you haven't discovered them before, and if you're curious to discover them, then you can start to integrate them into your awareness by looking up the date of the conjunction and noting where it is, and then following that pattern as it does its own aspect cycle. So I've highlighted a few different cycles today just to give us an idea of... is there any water, brother? Honey? Please. So I put all this picture here because there's hundreds of synodic cycles going on all the time. Well, not hundreds, but every single planet, thank you very much, every single planet all the time is in some form of a cycle. So we're always getting, you know, we're turning ourselves constantly into this idea of a precious awareness, of understanding where we're going in life. And it's not just, you can isolate one cycle, but there are actually many going on all the time. And the key to everything in this talk is that one must always refer to the original conjunction in the natal chart for the outcome of the cycle. This is the really key point. So we're going to look at just a couple of ones that fit in with the traditional visible planets. So the Sun-Mars cycle is 780 days. And an interpretation for that would be the will to live, vitality, vigor, activity, the power of attainment, the desire to be in the limelight, the ability to make decisions quickly, maybe a hot-blooded nature, advancement in life through one's own effort, acceptance of leading positions, the overcoming of difficulties and dangers, vocational success, and extraordinary achievements. So, of course, you have to look at your own natal chart for the natal positions of the Sun and Mars. in order to understand the condition of each planet and what you can expect to get out of that from your symbol map, if you like. But I've isolated the Sun and Mars to show you kind of what's going on, right? Now, as you know, I'm a Western tropical astrologer. These charts are done in Western tropical. So, but to convert these, just take note of the conjunction date in your almanac or your ephemeris. This is for Vedic astrologers. Take note of that conjunction date, and then place it accordingly into the sidereal and the Lahiri chart, and you'll have what you're looking for. So, for Western tropical, on the 27th of July, 2017, that was only 6 months ago, really. Sun and Mars conjoined at 4 degrees of Leo. So, the 4 degrees of Leo is the core point of this whole cycle. Now, you have to think back to what you were doing around about July, and in your own chart, and remember to keep like a point, boom, you know, that point in the zodiac, and you'll understand then how that can manifest, the promise, if you like, of your own ability to manifest something from that. So you're basically looking at the conjunction point in a particular house in your chart, in aspect to any planets in your chart. So for example, any other planets at 4 degrees in your charts, and you'd be looking at something that was going to go happen, or like at least a development over the next 780 days. So the separating square, well, it's just about to happen next month. So we've got 24th of March 2018. Again, look at your ephemerises and you'll see, or your almanacs. If you note the date down, you'll understand that, again, you can change the zodiac position, but the point for your sidereal or your in sidereal charts, you'll know where to find that as well. So, and this is the opening square. So the Sun has essentially moved ahead from Mars over the course of about 9 months. It's gone ahead of Mars, and it is now making an applying square. We're going to all feel that on the 24th of March, and it's going to be in relation to, and here's the conscious awareness bit, to that 4 degree conjunction point. So that's how it's kind of working. Now, on the 27th of July, 2018, there's going to be the opposition. This is going to be, funnily enough, at 4 degrees of Leo and 4 degrees Aquarius again. So it's really highlighting the fact that the opposition falls at the same point in the zodiac. Really does highlight this. It's quite remarkable. That's why I put it in this talk, because I was like, well, hang on, that's pretty interesting. So this is again going to be detailing a particular emphasis in your life. And we'll look at the formula about this, but I've already told you it's the idea of the will to live, achievement, vitality, you know. So we're looking at that Sun-Mars interpretation. And then on the 3rd of December 2018, we've got the applying square. So this is after the opposition. Once you get to the opposition, everything comes to full awareness in the cycle. I'll just go back to the opposition again, because of course this is when clearly someone else will be involved, because it goes across the zodiac. Yeah. So whatever house it was in the first place, when you get an opposition, it always involves someone else. It's almost, you can't avoid it, because it goes across 6 houses to the opposition on the other side. So someone is involved in this cycle. That's probably what you'll experience. Right. Separating square. Yeah. So, and then after the opposition, a few months later, the end in December, we'll have the applying square, and this is actually going to be in mutable signs, interestingly enough. So everything's going to change. Well, that's in Western tropical. In sidereal, it won't be. But you know what to do now, I think, by just looking at the date, and then noting the square, and then looking at your own charts to do the conversion, to understand what to expect. All the time, looking back at the original 4 degree marking point, by going up and beyond the zodiac signs, we're really looking at planet to planet energy, and that's where we get the common ground. Where East meets West, we get planet to planet energy, Nothing can deny that in astrology. We don't have to argue about anything else if we go planet to planet. Sun-Jupiter cycle, 1 year, 34 days. Some interpretation guidelines here. We've got health, joy and recognition, good health, good moral qualities, the urge to climb socially, a religious outlook, a will to expand, creative power, the capacity to form record achievements, advancement in life, success in the material or spiritual sphere. Some negatives can possibly come with this in the form of negligence, heedlessness, extravagance, squandering, ostentatious or arrogance. Now, of course, you have to look at the condition of the natal planets in your chart in order to see if you're going to avoid anything like that in the negatives. But generally speaking, this is some guidelines for Sun-Jupiter. So let's have a quick look at the cycle, just using the fourth harmonic conjunction square position. Okay, so conjunction, 26th of October 2017. Well, you know, that was only 4 months ago, 3 months ago. People can pretty much remember, you can probably recall pretty much now what you were doing at the end of October. And it was in Western, it was at 3 degrees of Scorpio. So do the conversion and you'll see what that was happening there for you. The applying square, 10th of February 2018, which is actually, well, it's like next week. So, and they're actually in orb now, aren't they, really? So this is quite interesting, you know, if you look back at that conjunction point and see what's happened since October. In fact, actually, if you think about it, that conjunction point, we were all buying our plane tickets, weren't we then, hey? Jupiter, you know, and that's what we were doing, right? In October, we were going, well, shall I plan ahead? Shall I come to this conference? And then, 10th of February, the square, and we're like, well, I went to that conference and it was amazing. You know what I mean? So, and then the opposition is the 9th of May 2018. So this is, of course, with the Jupiter cycle, Jupiter stays in the same sign, pretty much, for the whole year. And the Sun will be moving ahead of it all the time until the opposition point. So there's something to look at, that, you know, to understand that cycle. And then the closing square will be on the 7th of August 2018. Again, not that far away, but by following the cycle, one really gets to understand it. And of course, there are all other aspects in between it all as well. And I'm going to show you the quick formula for that, depending on the time, I suppose. So one more to do a quick cycle to help you kind of raise the awareness enough to really see where we're going with this. Visible planets, Venus and Saturn. So their cycle, which is currently ongoing. Inhibitions in love life, suffering through love. A sense of duty dominates the inclinations of the heart. A sense of reality, soberness, thrift and economy, reserve, loyalty and faithfulness. Self-control, inhibition in the expression of the emotions, the capability to make sacrifices for other people. So the conjunction was, well, in the West, Christmas Day, 25th of December, and there we have it. So you can do, that was the key point for this cycle. And it's only about a year cycle, Venus-Saturn, so you can see there that that's the key point to look at. And then the opening square is next month on the 13th of March. And you know, it has inclinations around the idea of testing oneself through partnerships, work and partnerships, that kind of thing. So you need to be looking at that in your life as the opening square happens, and there may be some tension around that. And then opposition, 26th of May this year, and at 8 degrees across this axis. Again, convert to sidereal if you want to. And the final closing square will be Venus and Saturn at 3 degrees of those particular signs. So just, as I said, you know, do the conversion, keeping the date in mind of 10th of August. Right, well, so to identify the points of stress, that's what this is all about as well, because of course there are easy aspects and then there are difficult aspects, and depends on how you're building the cycle up in your life. But this is where really knowing your astrology comes in handy, because you can mark out how to plan your life out with cycles like this. if you take two planets, you can take them out of the zodiac, watch their cycle, then you place them back into the hole. So that's, you know, essentially what you have to do every time with this. And so you've got to, you know, when it comes to talking to the client, you always make reference to that original conjunction position in the client's chart, and you help them to understand what they're experiencing as time progresses. So they're like, oh, it's so difficult, you know, and it's like, well, you know, when there's like an opening square going on, and you say, well, if you think back to what happened at the conjunction, remember that date and what was happening there in that area of your life? And they're like, oh yeah, well, that's actually what you're trying to achieve. The consciousness happens, the awareness happens, and they're like, bing, the light bulb goes on. So, you know, it's kind of like that. And essentially, when you're looking at fourth harmonic or, you know, conjunctions, squares, and oppositions, then you're looking at the idea of pressure transforming something. Again, we're going back to this idea of, well, you know, all life is based on carbon, but certain pressures create certain things that make them very precious in life, if you like. And it's just about viewing our lives in that way. Now, I want to talk about the Jupiter-Saturn interpretation, because I'm going to do a little bit of course, this works very much for Vedic astrology. And this is a 20-year cycle. So it's patience, achieving success through perseverance. It's being conscious of an objective or a sense of duty. It's self-confidence or lack of self-confidence as another way of looking at that. Emotional tension and inhibition, discontent, maturity and experience gained as a result of previous difficulties, dissatisfaction of oneself as well as with others, the attainment of far-reaching objectives and changing success. So this is a 20-year cycle. So if you go back now to the 28th of May, the year 2000, Jupiter and Saturn in Western Tropical met at 22 degrees of Taurus. That's the hot degree, right? That's where they met. And so if you look in your natal chart, the house, and if you do the conversion to sidereal, again, look at the house position and look at how it made any other aspects to other planets. And you're going to find that over 20 years, you've been trying to achieve or do a Jupiter-Saturn thing in that particular area of your life. And that really is totally, well, personally speaking, when I discovered that, I was just like, mind blown. So, the separating square, 25th of October 2006, and you've got, you know, well, remember, these are all historical dates now, you know, 2006, you know, this, as I said, is charting out the idea of what was happening mundane-wise. Well, the opposition, as you all know, you know, was March 2011. The decreasing square was in August 2015. The point I really wanted to, yeah, you can just see it there, is right now, pretty much, this year, we've got the closing semi-square, and I just thought that was a really good example, because this again is a tense aspect, 45 degrees, and it's decreasing cycle, preparing for Jupiter and Saturn to conjunct again in December 2020. So this is a real closing off phase, and it's like what has one created, what has one achieved in that 20 years, and this is the time to really reflect on that. So that was on the 21st of December 2017, but it also happens next month, 14th of March, and if I remember correctly, it's in September as well, on the other half of the slide here that we can't see. So that's going to be the Jupiter-Saturn semi-square. Aha, excellent, there we go, 3rd of September 2018. So if you now think about what was happening in your life in the year 2000, what you set out to achieve, or you planted the seed of something in the year 2000, it's now gone full fruition. You know, it's gone all the way around the cycle, and you're on the last semi-square here. It's like, well, you know, what have you done? Where, you know, what houses is that in? You know, look at the houses in. I said, take out the zodiac signs, planet-to-planet dynamic. You can put it back into sidereal, use a Lahiri chart as well, and look to the houses, noting where the conjunction was in at 22 degrees in May 2000, and then bring it back and do the translation, you know, interpret it yourself. And you're going to get some really good insights. You know, it just works. Okay, and then we've got a list to look forward to. Okay, so everybody be ready, because we're going to have 21st of December 2020, we've got the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius, and that's pretty epic, actually. I mean, I could tell you so much about that. I've done a fair amount of research. This is the beginning of the Airy trigon properly. I mean, you know, we've been through the Great Mutation. That's another talk, actually, to be honest. But you know, this is very, very exciting time, because we would have all been through the Saturn-Pluto South Node conjunction and Jupiter in Capricorn. And so, having been through that series of conjunctions in Capricorn, we're then going to have a Saturn-Jupiter in Air. And of course, yeah, do the conversion for sidereal to understand where that cycle will start in your own charts. But that's going to be very interesting new developments, if you like, that will last 20 years. Okay, so it's just basically, I call this branding, because you're looking at the, again, I just got, you know, I had to sort of, you know, really make sure that you understand that you take the degree place of the conjunction and then build a picture around that. That's the source of it, and then everything, you know, goes around that as a result. Now, of course, this comment here is the idea that even if the cycle between the two planets takes many years to complete, well, you know, if we look at outer planet cycles like Jupiter, Saturn, which we can all agree on as being a visible planets in the sky, we can see them. If you look at some of the outer planet cycles, of course, you're looking at much longer years to play out their cycles. So I thought I'd mention this because I think I want to try to highlight to the honourable Vedic astrologers here that how the outer planets can be seen in context for maybe later understanding and development. Larger mundane cycles are basically is the playing out of the aspect series of each of the planetary synodic cycles. They're used in mundane astrology to measure the important developments in world history, and you follow the aspect series. And so there they are, very quickly. There's most of them. As you can see, Jupiter, Neptune's 13 years, Jupiter, 5 minutes. Right, so Jupiter, Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn, 20 years, we looked at that. Saturn, Pluto, 35. But it goes right up to Neptune, Pluto, 493. And the Uranus, Pluto is an averaging out at 113 to 141. And I chose that one just to mention this. In the idea that slow-moving outer planet cycles can include several generations of a family. So you can have, for example, great-grandmother, grandmother, mother, daughter, great-grandfather, grandfather, father, son. Now, if the Uranus-Pluto conjunction in 1965, 1966, which was in Western Tropic, was in Virgo, that takes an averaging of 115 years, give it a, you know, it actually goes out to possibly 140 years, for it to play out. And 4 generations of family could live in that time with the original degree point of the conjunction, and then each generation is born, and that Uranus-Pluto is moving around the zodiac in this aspect series, and so that's why we are all evolving. We're all constantly evolving. That's what I needed to say. The aspect series is, so this is a very brief, quick, and I've only got a couple of minutes left, but starts with the starts with the conjunction. I'll just read the ones in red because we haven't got any time left. But these are all in your book, in Constellation News. I got into great detail in this, so you can read that and use that as a reference point. Transition, ending and beginnings, energization. The separating semi-sextile, where the faster planets started moving ahead, is emergence and germination. Then you have the semi-square of 45 degrees, again, faster planets still moving ahead. And we have orientation, initiation, and commitment, which is the sextile at 60, which is progress, developments, and activity. Moving on to the square, which is encountering work and the facing of the facts. Then we have trine, which is free flow, an idea of being okay, everything's okay, space for understanding and things. Then you have the sesquiquadrate, which is choice, readjustment, and resolve. You have the quincunx, which is tangents, perspectives, and letting be. And then you have the opposition. And in order to get to the opposition, you have to have that as well. Oh, hang on. And a diamond is a piece of charcoal that handles stress exceptionally well, which is the idea of moving from one planet to the other. The opposition is the full awareness point. The opposition of 180 degrees is confrontation, transition, and a big difference. Now we're looking at the faster planet after the opposition moving back down, so it's now applying to meet the slower planet again in the next conjunction. Finding a context, seeing clearly and joining in. The sesquiquadrate is getting stuck in engagement and interaction. The trine is going along with things, belonging and harmony. The square, which is the final closing square, which I highlighted in all those charts, is effort, dedication and breakthrough. The applying sextile is activity, feedback and completing. And then we get to the semi-square, which I described with the Jupiter-Saturn cycle. That's release and sorting out of the past. And ultimately then the semi-sextile, which is reminiscence, rounding up new angles on old things. And we end up with somewhere around about here. Becoming a diamond, it takes pressure, like all these aspect cycles. And so I hope you enjoyed that. At its core, remember, it's dynamic to dynamic planets. You can take the zodiac out and just use the planetary cycles, and you'll still get, you can do astrology like that, essentially. My name's Julian Venables, and this is information, and I hope you enjoyed the lecture. Thank you very much.